Hey, it's MiWilderness again. I come out today, I wanted to see about picking some American hazelnuts. It's a plant that I'm just starting to get familiar with. And I'm trying to determine at what stage to pick them. I found out that if you let the little husks that they're contained in dry out, most of the squirrels will already have ate them by then, but they turn ripe before these little green husks turn brown. And the way you determine that is just by peeling it open just a little bit and peeking inside, and if the nut is white or very light cream colored, they're most likely not ripe. But if you look at some of these other ones, see, I peel that open, that nut is brown, and some of them are turning brown. So what I'm going to do is go through and, instead of picking all the ones I see, look for the little clusters. A lot of times there's 3 or 4 in a cluster, and all the ones that look like they're starting to turn brown I'm going to pick, and I'm going to leave the pale ones. I was out a few weeks ago, or about 2 weeks ago, and I picked a few that were just starting to turn from white to brown, and I let them dry for a week in the windowsill so that this husk would come off easily, and I shelled them, and they were good, but the nut itself was a little bit soft, so that gave me the impression that they probably weren't quite ripe. And a lot of the nuts won't have a nut inside of them, and I haven't found any buggy ones yet. I have noticed on some of them it'll look like the shell looks a little different, or this husk is a little funky looking. I don't know if that's a sign that they have bugs in them or not, but I'm gonna go ahead and pick a bunch of these. There's quite a few of these hazelnut shrubs or trees or whatever you want to call them throughout this whole area, and it seems like the ones that are out in the field that get a lot of sun are turning ripe. I was back in the woods over there a few minutes ago, and all the ones that were growing in the woods in the shade weren't ripe. And the other thing I noticed is they didn't have nearly as many fruit on them. These ones out in the field have big clusters of 3 and 4, and they have nut clusters on almost every out at every branch tip almost. So hopefully I'll get a couple gallons worth here and take them home. I was reading Sam Thayer's new book, The Nature's Garden, and he has a pretty good write-up on the hazelnuts. That's where I got a lot of my preliminary information from. And he was saying for every 5 gallons of these involucres, as he calls them, for every 5 gallons of these unhusked hazelnuts, you'll end up with about 1 quart of shelled nuts, because this husk takes up quite a bit of volume in your bucket or bag or whatever. But I'm going to go through and pick a bunch. They're pretty good. I mean, they're pretty much just like the hazelnuts you get in the store, except they're possibly just a little bit smaller. But they're really good. They taste just like the nuts you buy in the store. You don't have to leach them out like acorns or anything, so I think it's a pretty good resource. I'm going to get back to picking here, and I'll show you what I got when I finish. Alright, well, I went and picked all the ones off this tree that appeared ripe. or nearing ripeness. And looks like I ended up with maybe 30 or 40 off of this one little shrub right here. There's a look at the involucres, or husks, that are on the outside of these nuts. And there you can see where I peeled the husk back to see if the nut was turning brown yet. Most of these are turning brown. There was quite a few that were still very pale cream, pale white, so I left those. A lot of the husks were starting to turn from green to brown, and that seemed to maybe help with determining if they're ripe. And there was a few husks, see if I can find them now that I've stuck them in my bag. I mean, you can see that one, there's a couple really big ones, but those husks are really green still. They're really green and juicy, but the nut inside is brown and ripe. And if you wanted to, you could peel that green husk off right now and crack them open and eat them. Now, this isn't a good example, but this husk has a brown spot on it, and a couple I had a big like black spot. I don't know if that's a sign that they're buggy or not, but what I'm going to do is take these home and dry them out for about a week, and then this husk will peel off real easy. Here's the one. See, it's got a big black spot. But after you dry these for a week, that husk will come off real easy. And supposedly, if the nuts are ripe and they don't have a bug in them, they should fall right off of this husk because they're kind of attached to it at the top. I don't know if you know what a hazelnut looks like, but the top has that kind of light colored area. That's where it attaches to this husk. And if they fall right off, that means they're ripe, and should mean that they're not buggy, hopefully. We'll see. But I'm gonna go. I got quite a few more little shrubs to hit, and I think I saw some on the way in. I'm gonna hit those and see what I end up with, and when I finish, I'll show you what I got for a grand total for the day. But there's about 30 or 40 here, and that took me maybe 5 minutes to pick those, and that's probably about 70% of what was on this bush. And this seems to be an average sized bush. But I'll let you go and get back to picking.